Hello and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. It's everything Les Bleus this week with the international break currently going on. Joining me this week, as always, is Eric Devine and Philippe Bargier. Before we look at how France have done in their first friendly and how they're currently doing in their friendly against Serbia, here's Eric with all the latest headlines.
Thanks, Nathan. Obviously, without league action in France this past weekend, the news is necessarily a bit shorter and national team-centric. France defeated Portugal 1-0 on Friday thanks to a late free kick from Mathieu Valbuena, and it was an otherwise dull game that did see the introduction of new Manchester United signing Anthony Martial, who made his first appearance from the bench in the second half. The big news, however, was probably the injury to Nabil Fekir. Lyon playmaker will be out for close to the rest of the season, estimated 4 to 6 months with an injured knee. Rennes goalkeeper Benoit Costil has also been ruled out for up to 2 months with a knee issue as well. France are currently in a match with Serbia and are up 1-0 thanks to a goal from Blaise Matuidi. And that's all the news we have for now. Back to you, Nathan.
Thank you, Eric. And remember, follow all the links in our description if you want the latest French football news with our Twitter feed and our website. They're all in the links down there. Also, if you'd like to follow the game whilst you're listening to the podcast tonight, please go head to at GFFN Match Zone. They've got you covered there. They'll regular updates on the match, and we'll do regular updates here as well should there be some action. We've got Philippe on the job in France watching the game. But we're going to talk about the biggest piece of news that came out of the friendly against Portugal a few days ago. Nabil Fekir will be out for at least 6 months with a ruptured cruciate ligament in his knee. It's a blow for France, but it's a monumental one really for Lyon, Eric. How much will this affect his club side?
To an incalculable amount. Fekir has been over the beginning of this season and through much of last season really the driving force beyond Lyon's performances. Yes, Lacazette garnered a lot of the headlines for the goals, but it's really Fekir chipping in that's made that team tick, made that team turn over. Whether it's goals, assists, being a playmaker, being a striker, his versatility and ability to aid the team going forward in whatever role was necessary at the time was perhaps the most integral part of Lyon's success last season. With a relatively easy group in the Champions League, I think a lot of people were looking at Lyon having a really fine season both domestically and in Europe, and I think this is a huge hammer blow to all those hopes. I think that obviously there's still talent in the team in terms of Valbuena and Bovu coming in, but the issue of playing as many games as they will with their European involvement, and once the French Cup start as well, I think is really going to be an issue because, you look at the likes of Valbuena at 30 years old, they're not going to be able to play, 31 years old by the end of the season, they won't be able to be playing, 50 games on the season. And I think that even that lack of rotation, as well as Fekir's talent on the pitch, is really going to be an issue. Lyon are going to really be forced to blood some very young players here, the likes of Maxwell Cornier, for example, has been mentioned. Kalulu is another young attacking player that we might see some of during the season. So it's affecting squad depth. It's affecting talent. It's affecting Lyon's ability to put the ball in the net. In the absence of Lacazette, the absence of the Lacazette of last season thus far, Fekir has really been, sort of the driving force behind Lyon having their success. For example, last weekend against Caen, it's an injury of incalculable problems for Legon.
Well, Philippe, let's focus more on the national side a little bit more about this. How does this affect the French national team as in terms to Fekir? He was given the chance against Portugal, but couldn't obviously make an impact. Do you think he could still make the squad regardless?
Just before mentioning, I'd like to do a little update on the Serbia game. We had a Giroud chance from a Tremoulinas cross. Tremoulinas, who, by the way, is cheered every time he touches the ball because the game is at Bordeaux, and that's where he was trained or formed. I'm not quite sure. And Serbia had their first chance. Good save from Lloris. In terms of Fekir, yeah, I mean it's anyone who's interested in football feels horrible for that young man. He had one of the best games of his life at Caen, where his side were not playing particularly well, and he goes on and score a hat-trick with devastating ease. And a lot was made, actually. There was a lot of pressure on Fekir for the Portugal game, because it was all about how is he going to play now that he's being given a chance. There was all this talk about him not being too sure for which country he was going to play, and people didn't. I mean, people didn't. Some people didn't appreciate that. They chose France straight away, but now people were really acknowledging that he had real raw talent, and I was actually hoping he'd play up front on his own to let us know what he was all about, and he did play well until that terrible injury, and at first I heard the commentators on French television saying, well, yeah, he strained something with his knee. He strained his knee, but he didn't say ligament. It's only when you heard ligament and you said, and then you heard cruciate ligament, you said, well, that's dead. I'm not really sure. You're always a great chance for 2-0. I'm not really sure if he can still make the squad. I think it'll be really, really tough for him. 6 months is a very long time. Then he has to play. Lyon will probably still have European football. I'm not sure if they'll be able to finish second now. Now that Fekir is not going to be playing for, I would say, easily 2/3 of the season. Well, when I say not playing, it's not playing at the level he's able to play. So I think it would be a great risk to take him to Euro 2016. Even though this is France, we'll probably have a talk about that later. This is France. It's in France, and France have a great chance to win the tournament. There are other contestants that may be less risky, but we really need to wait and see when he plays his first game, his first competitive game, and when he gets back to his real level, if he gets it back. I mean, I'm not sure if it's the same injury as Ronaldo's. It was in Ronaldo got, and some people say that he never really recovered from that injury, and even though he was still world class after that injury, he never really got back to levels of before his injury, which he was just ridiculously good.
Well, it's a tricky one, isn't it, with knees? And you made a good point there, Philip, that he really shined in that game against Caen last week. But something like an injury always presents opportunity for others, Eric. Taking the Lyon point of view straight away, is it really Bovu's place to try and replicate what Fekir did and try and smooth the blow a little?
I mean, Bovu is the player on the team whose skill set is the most like Fekir's, and being sort of a smaller, stocky, physical player who's good at drawing fouls and can score goals. But the creative element that Fekir added to the team, I think, is more irreplaceable, because his particular skill set is a player who you're not quite sure what he's going to do. He can shoot, he can pass, he can try and dribble by you. There are elements of each of those things in Lacazette, in Valbuena, and in Bovu, for example. But there's not that the particular combination that makes him such a dangerous to combustible player isn't encapsulated in any one player. Really, on the Lyon squad, and really on a worldwide basis. I mean, if Fekir continues to develop, we're talking about one of the best players in the world. And Lyon don't have anybody that's on that level on their team, and that's a simple fact. I mean, Bovu did well and has done well at various stops, but I mean, he's not really showed himself to have the consistency in terms of goal scoring, and certainly in terms of creativity to be on the level of being able to replace what Fekir gives to that team. Valbuena is another talent that's been brought in. and he's had certainly his moments through his Marseille career and with the French national team, but he's not quite as dynamic with the ball at his feet. He's not willing to take players on as easily, and he's sort of a more enigmatic presence, if you will. So, unless Lacazette can come back to where he was last year, and how much of that was down to Fekir as well, we should mention, I think that this could be really difficult for Lyon to cope with, despite the fact that they did make positive acquisitions in the summer window.
Philip, you spoke about the fact that Fekir was really getting his chance against Portugal the other day. Who's going to take that chance now he's not able to take? Is it Antoine Griezmann? Is it someone like Valbuena now, who started this evening as well?
I don't particularly think so. 2-0 to France. Matuidi again, great strike. I think it's a difference of formation. Deschamps didn't really establish what formation he was going to use with Fekir in the long run. So he went for a 4-3-1-2, which is basically a diamond-shaped midfield. In which game we saw that Pogba was just not comfortable being that far up the pitch, so Fekir played up front with Benzema. I really wanted him to be playing up front to show what he can do, and that didn't happen. So I don't think he'll be replaced by a winger. So Griezmann to me will start. I mean, if he's fit, he will be in the 23, no question, and he will start every game that France is not qualified against. So maybe it'll be like in '98 where they win the first 2 games and they can do some reshuffling and give the substitutes a bit of time. So I don't think Griezmann is in any kind of danger at all. I spoke about Fekir having pressures. There's another guy who has a bit of pressure these days is Martial with this 80 million price tag. I do think that he will be given quite a bit of game time at Manchester United. I hope so. Anyway, and that he could be underplaying, but it depends what Deschamps thinks of his options. Then you also have Lacazette, who has played on the wing most of the time because Deschamps plays with Benzema or Giroud up front, and it'll be interesting to see if he sticks with that. But he could very well put Lacazette in a centre forward position, but that would mean that Benzema or Giroud would play on the wing, which to me does not make much sense. So my gut feeling is that Martial is going to replace Fekir on the in the squad for France. But of course it depends if Deschamps wants to keep Giroud and Benzema. Let's say monopoly of being the centre forward, being the starting centre forward and the substitute centre forward, or not. Maybe he wants to go with 2 strikers. I personally think it's a bad idea. So yeah, if he's staying in this 4-3-3 mode, I would say Martial would take Fekir's spot in the 23.
I think you make it. Sorry, carry on, Eric.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to realize, as much talent as Martial has, as much as he's an exciting player, one for the future, if Lacazette and Ntep are both fit, does he make the squad? I don't think so, and I also think that Lacazette and Ntep are both better fits for that 4-3-3. I mean, Martial has played out wide, yes, but he doesn't have the amount of experience that Lacazette and Ntep do playing out wide, and I think that for that reason, I don't really see Martial as being an integral part of this team going into Euro 2016. I think that it might be nice to take him for experience, but that can't be Deschamps' priority. This is a tournament that Germany's still trying to work things out in terms of the retirements they've suffered. Spain have had their problems. For me, I mean, we'll get to this later, there isn't a clear favorite for this tournament, and France need to focus on bringing in the best 23, not developing these players. There's not games to throw around heading into the tournament. If Martial has an incredible season with United and scores 4 goals in the next friendlies, great, bring him. But unless he has an immediate and dramatic impact in the Premier League and with Les Bleus, I don't think he deserves a place in this 23.
No, I agree. It's. I mean, I do believe that if he does make the squad, it'll be as a squad player. He won't be starting every single game because he's not even 20. Because I do believe that Deschamps will stay with this Benzema and Giroud monopoly of being the centre forwards, and who is playing where doesn't really make much of a difference. I really do believe that if both of them are fit, they will be at least one of them will be on the pitch against whoever France is playing in Euro 2016. I honestly doubt that though that Paul Georges Ntep will be in the 23. Yes, France do need a winger, but I can see Deschamps making the kind of decision that he takes Lacazette to play on the wing rather than take an actual winger that is Ntep.
Well, hold on a second, because I feel that, especially the way that the Rennes are playing this year with that 3-4-3 formation that they're using, I mean, that's perfectly set up for Ntep. I could easily see him getting 15 goals this season. We look at how well Zephon did against Lyon, and the kind of performances that Pedro Henrique and Grosicki have been turning in. If one of those players drops out of the squad and Ntep is able to play 30 games after his return from injury, he is supposed to play this weekend, I believe, or be available to be selected this weekend. I think Ntep can have a really fantastic season. I think Rennes, as currently constructed, hopefully if all goes well with Costillo's injury, I think Rennes are a dark horse for the Champions League, and I think that if Ntep can get 12 goals for that team, he needs to be in that 23. I think that he showed himself, pretty well over the past 2 or 3 seasons, and I think his versatility. I think Ntep can play as a striker as well. He's a little bit undersized, but in a 4-3-3, I think that could work. I pick him ahead of Martial at this point, especially with the potential he has to make a real impact in France this season, which I don't see Martial having as much of an impact to make.
It depends what formation Deschamps uses at the end of the day, because if he goes with 2 strikers, I would say Ntep would definitely not make the squad. But if he goes 4-3-3, and I really think he should, then I reckon I reckon that Ntep would have a shot, but I don't think he will. He'd really have to have an amazing season to make the 23 for me.
Well, I think you make an interesting point there, Eric, about Paul Georges Ntep, and just to confirm, he did come on at the weekend previously, so he is fit probably to potentially start next weekend. And
I missed that. Okay, he's back.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, he came on for 28 minutes. I was certain I saw his number 7 for Rennes on the other weekend. So yeah, he's back fit. And I think it's an interesting point. I mean, we mentioned Martial, and it would take a dramatic season, but at the same time, you've seen this numerous times with numerous different international teams, that when there's questions over Giroud and Benzema, that you could quite feasibly see even Martial even only having a slight impact at Manchester United. He might get in just simply because those two are so uneven in performances. And we'll move on to sort of talking about players that are nailing down their places now.
Just one last thing, Nathan. He might be in the squad just because he cost 80 million euros.
Exactly.
Yeah, and which is a bit sad, really. But it's I can just see this happening.
It's a viable option, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
That amount instantly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that he's got that kind of talent level, and if Benzema and Giroud aren't really performing at that kind of level that they should be doing, then you've got to have that different option. Lacazette would obviously be usually the other option, but it is an interesting point. I think Eric makes a good point that I think the person who's probably going to benefit the most from Fekir's injury might be Ntep if he does perform as many expect him to at Rennes this season. But talking again about players who have nailed down their places, of those sort of fringe sides, you mentioned Griezmann earlier. Who's really nailed their place now? Who's definitely on that plane, Philip?
Most of the side that started against Portugal, and actually most of the players that are playing against Serbia as we speak, I'm not quite sure. I haven't drawn a list of 23 players. Ntep is a kind of players that could make the squad. One of the players that really is in danger of not making it, or at least not playing a lot at the Euros, is Sakho, Mamadou Sakho of Liverpool. I mean, it really does look. Watching our game against Portugal, which was really not a great watch. You could just see that what we are going to use this summer will be as a centre-back pairing, Varane and Koscielny, which was not the case at the World Cup. Sagna is making a good claim. I think the 20 we probably know about 20 of the 20 that are going to go, but I think it's a lot about the players wanting to start the games. Not they know most players, and I'm thinking about Sagna. Most players, they really want to. They know they're practically in there. For playing at the Euros, but Sagna will want to start. He wants to start ahead of Debuchy, who had injury-ravaged season to say the least at Arsenal. Then you have left back. I'm not even sure who's going to be the second choice left back, because you've got Tremoulinas playing tonight. Then you've got Kurzawa, and we don't know if he's going to play a lot at PSG, unfortunately. I think the squad writes itself. I mean, I can come up with the 23 without too much trouble. But it's really more about who's going to start, and there's going to be some really good challenges between the likes of Kurzawa, Tremoulinas to be Evra's understudy and so on. But if I was Sakho, I would be looking over my shoulder and probably just looking for a loan right now.
Eric, is there anyone on the squad bubble that you think will be in or out come Euro 2016, other than say Ntep?
I mean, I know Morgan Schneiderlin's not a bubble squad player, but I think that he's really nailed down a place at the base of this midfield. I mean, they had started the other day with Cabaye at the base of midfield, but it didn't really work out. And we've seen, the best practitioners of 4-3-3, be it the current PSG or the Barcelona of recent past as well. You really need that defensive anchor, whether it be Thiago Motta at PSG or Sergio Busquets at Barcelona, to sort of steady the ship. And I think that what Schneiderlin offers in that role is really tremendous, and he's really coming on leaps and bounds. He's now at Manchester United, has more of a chance to make himself, to measure his level of talent in the Champions League. I think that he's going to be one of the first names on Deschamps' squad sheet, and that hadn't necessarily been the case, even going perhaps back 6 months ago. You look at the friendlies against the likes of Brazil and Denmark. So yeah, I think that he's the player who's perhaps doing or has done the most to impress me, particularly if they whether they play a diamond 4-4-2, or the 4-3-3. I think that Schneiderlin at the base of midfield is a must-have, because that, again, if we're seeing the role that Matuidi is taking tonight, it allows those other midfielders, be it Pogba, Matuidi, Sissoko, to have a freer role without having to worry quite as much about their defensive responsibilities.
Yeah, and looking at the French squad, really, I think the two absolutely nailed-on starters are Pogba and Matuidi at the moment. Sorry.
The third central midfield position is really going to be challenged as well, because, like you said, Nathan, Pogba and Matuidi will start if they're fit. That's not a question. But Eric rightly pointed out Schneiderlin, and I can see Schneiderlin challenging Cabaye until the kickoff of the very first France game of Euro 2016, because Cabaye did not have a good couple of years. I mean, he did play for PSG, and it just did not work. And it's a shame, because he played in the formation that France to me should be playing, which is 4-3-3, with the three midfield players, one next to each other. And Schneiderlin is just coming back from another magnificent season at Southampton, and now he's going to play at Manchester United. It's not exactly a 4-3-3. It's going to be more of a 4-2-3-1 for Manchester United as it stands, but that can change. He's going to play next to Schweinsteiger, who's not a bad player, won the World Cup, won everything there is to win, is going to be great for his experience. So I can see Schneider actually starting most games for year 2016, although I'm sure Cabaye will have a great season at Palace as well.
I would say that Michael Carrick's not a bad player to play beside as well with the
Sure.
Yeah, so yeah, and he's been favoured.
I was going to mention him.
Yeah, he's been favoured out of the three. He's been the one that's played the most so far for Manchester United, so he's been favoured there. And I was going to say whether that third spot, but we'll move on to sort of the attackers then. If we've talked about, I think the goalkeeper's nailed on. But we talked about the defence and midfield.
Serbia scored. Sorry.
Oh, is that a goal? Who scored for Serbia? Have we got that?
I think it's Mitrovic who deflects number 21. Not quite sure who it is. I think it's Mitrovic. So 39 minutes in, and it's 2-1 to 2. Sorry. Yeah, the guy didn't exactly. I think it's been disallowed actually. Sorry, Nathan.
Oh, that's okay. Never mind. At least I was going to say, is that bringing up issues at the back? But we'll talk about them going forward. That's probably the place with the most sort of interchange at the moment. Eric, if say we play a 4-3-3, who are the three you go for in that starting opening game of Euro 2016?
I mean, a lot depends on the seasons the players have for their clubs, but for me, it's got to be. I think it has to be Griezmann and Benzema, and I think Valbuena, on the right. I mean, he's just his creative abilities and his experience. I think give him the edge here. I mean, I know we've got other players who can play in that role. Maybe I'm looking at the likes of perhaps Moussa Sissoko could be used wide on the right in a 4-3-3, but I think that Valbuena's creative ability and, as we saw, his free kick ability, I think just give him the edge, because we saw particularly in those friendlies back in late March, early April, how dynamic that front three could be. Again, that's Benzema, Griezmann, and Valbuena. They're able to take different positions on the pitch. So, Griezmann can drift inside. Benzema can drift a little bit. So there's that, and that sort of dynamism, I think, has the knock-on effect with those three of allowing the midfielders to get more involved. We see if France go with a 4-3-3 midfield of Schneiderlin, Pogba, and Matuidi, being able to create space for Matuidi and Pogba to run into, I think, really gives France the best opportunity going forward. And the level of synchronicity that those three, the attacking three, have showed, I think, makes them the best choice for now. Barring a tremendous season from someone else. But I think, again, Griezmann, Benzema, and Valbuena should be the front three.
Yeah, that's just to confirm as well. It has been given as a goal for Mitrovic, I believe. So that's. I pose the same question to you then, Philip. If you had to pick right now the front three, who would your three be?
It would be the same as Eric as things stand. I've always been very concerned with our lack of wingers. Of true wingers. This is why Entep has got a chance. Martial is not a winger. He has played there for a long time. Lacazette is not a winger. I'm not quite sure. I mean, of the mold of Valbuena and Griezmann, who do we really possess as the real talented winger? Because if Valbuena or Griezmann do get injured, we are basically playing centre forwards on the side, which really means a really different position to the centre forward who's playing out of position, because he needs to fight back to right back, also left back, needs to do lots of defensive work, needs to get forward a lot. It's a really tough one, and I don't see that much width or players coming into this position. But on the other hand, you could have Kurzawa could have. I mentioned it last week. He could play further up the field for PSG and for France as well. So that might be a solution. But to answer the question, Valbuena on the right, Griezmann on the left, and Benzema up front with all three of those moving. A very dangerous team if that's a front three.
Well, thinking if you're both picking Valbuena, I'm going to throw a name in the hat, and he's not in the squad at the moment. Unless I've missed something, I'm not sure why. But Dimitri Payet, Liga top assist maker last season, does he not get a shout?
No, he should, yeah.
That's what I was thinking. He offers a similar role to Valbuena.
He hasn't been called up, and do you know, Philip? It's.
I think it was called up
against
this
Albania.
summer.
Yeah, the last friendlies after the season.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that he wasn't in the squad, but I would think that personally, if he's fit and performing as he has for the first 3 or 4 games of the season for West Ham, he will happily throw his hat in that ring, and I might personally start him over Valbuena. I know it's maybe a bit of a big shout, but I think he's an interesting one in there. But to move on to something that we've sort of touched upon a couple of times about the formations that France have used over the last week or so. Deschamps tried a diamond formation to try and incorporate a lot of those centre midfielders he's got into a system, as well as probably trying to get a way of getting Fekir in there nicely as well. Did it really work? Is it better than the 4-2-3-1/4-3-3 that they've used in the past, Philip?
You mean the diamond?
Yes.
Well, actually, I think it's coming back. You've seen Liverpool almost winning the league with that one, but like we saw against Portugal, it just did not work because I don't think we have the player to play as a number 10, maybe except Payet or Valbuena could play there, but he's so much more of a threat on the wing. I'm not a big fan of either the diamond-shaped 4-4-2 or the 4-2-3-1 because I don't think that the attacking midfielder position has any real future. It's just too central, and you've got the opposition's defensive midfielder on your heels all game long, and then you've got 2 and sometimes 3 centre backs to deal with, and you've only got one centre forward to play with. It's just it's just too further up the pitch, and we saw that with Pogba against Portugal. He was just too close to the attack. He needs to get from the backs. This is also what I think why Fabregas has not played so well for Chelsea, is that he was playing too further up front. But when he's playing next to a defensive midfielder and where he can propose some chances from deep, and then he's really much more dangerous. So to me, it's 4-3-3 every day of the week for me. PSG plays that way, so Matuidi is used to it. Pogba is very good, has played a good first half tonight, and Schneiderlin is also Schneiderlin and Cabaye are also quite comfortable with this position. It's just and France have had a great World Cup using this formation. So to me, yeah, it's 4-3-3.
Eric, would you go along with that 4-3-3?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you can look at the bench too. I mean, the likes of a Kondogbia. I mean, or a Sissoko if they're not starting. And again, if we're imagining the midfield to be that Matuidi, Pogba, Schneiderlin trio, I think that those players are like for like replacements. So that also allows more depth for the team. I would honestly, if Deschamps persists with the 4-3-3, I kind of almost wonder whether Cabaye has a place in the team. I know that's a little bit controversial, but I don't think he offers the same amount of energy and dynamism that the rest of those players do going forward. He was used at the base of midfield and at PSG, and we saw that with the national team in the match against Portugal. But he doesn't have the tackling acumen to make that work. And he doesn't have the pace and energy to be one of the 2 midfielders that are a little bit further forward. I kind of question, honestly, what his role is there. I think 4-3-3 gets the best out of all the players available. I do think Philip has a good point about the wingers. We're kind of shoehorning the likes of of a Griezmann and a Valbuena into those roles, but they have the intelligence in terms of movement and their ability on the ball to make it work and to create space again for the likes of Matuidi, Pogba, Kondogbia to run forward with the ball at their feet and to be at their most dangerous. And it just gets the best out of all the players. I mean, again, it's a national team. You can't bring in players to make things work in a different system. So Deschamps is doing the best he can with what he has at his disposal, and he has a lot of very pacey and powerful midfielders that are his most talented players, and to get the best out of them, the 4-3-3 has to be the system going forward.
I think you make an interesting point, Eric, about Cabaye and his place in the squad. I thought it was strange him playing in defensive midfield the other day against Portugal, but I think, in all honesty, he will be with the squad because he offers that different option to something like Kondogbia or Sissoko coming on. His passing ability and his ability to sometimes join in attacks from slightly deeper might give them a little bit more control when they need it. But I agree with you two. The 4-3-3 is the formation to go. I think the diamond yesterday was too restrictive on the best player for France, really, in Pogba, who's dynamic when he's running at teams and going back and forth, really. So you have to play to your strengths, and I agree that 4-3-3 will be the way to go. But it might be a little premature to really tell. But Philip, what are France's chance of winning the Euros next summer?
To be honest, we don't look that inspiring to when we watch France play. But I saw against Portugal, it was okay. It was just that Portugal were really, really disappointing to me. They were really, I really expected more from this game, but Portugal have had very, very poor results in the international competitions, and I expect that to last for these Euros, but maybe not too far in the future, because you have the under-21 who won the Euros and beat Germany 5-0. I think it was in there.
They lost the Euro final against Sweden. I think they did.
Oh, they did. Sorry.
Yeah.
But they were still amazing. I mean, Bernardo Silva has proven he's got potential to be very good. I don't know. I just don't see a contender. We have Germany, who have topped their group for the first time last weekend, but they're currently drawing 2-2 with Scotland, while Poland are beating Gibraltar 4-0. And I watched a lot of Germany since their Brazilian success, and it just seems like there's no real up-and-coming youngsters to replace the likes of Lahm and especially Klose, who's finally retired from international football. He is not young enough to play for them, but there's just you don't sense that there's a real talent coming up, and I've seen really dreadful performance from Germany, especially games against Poland. They didn't beat Ireland at home, even though Ireland basically did not attack the whole game. It was just it just seems very, very uninspiring as well. I mean, I didn't watch the game against Poland as I was watching France, but you just sense that Joachim Löw, who I think shouldn't have stayed on. I don't think these type of things actually work. Well, actually, it did work for Del Bosque, but I don't think this is going to work. They don't have any strikers. They play with a lot of players who have a lot of flair, but at the end of the day, they look so disorganized in midfield and in an attack, which is extremely ironic for a German side. But this is for Germany. Italy, you never know what they're going to do. They almost won Euro 2012, but they fell at the first hurdle in Brazil, in England's group. England are the same. Have no idea what to expect from them. First team to qualify for the finals, but an absolutely joke of a group, really. I mean, it's
just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, can you get excited with a group like that? I mean, I couldn't. I mean, I actually find France's friend is more interesting, and it's. I don't know. It just you could get anything you'd want with England, but then you've got the fact that it's a nailed on defeat if it goes to penalties. Spain are rebuilding. Well, I'm saying France's only biggest enemy is themselves, because they've got everything. They've got everything to win this tournament, and aside from Germany, I don't really see who's going to put up a challenge.
Eric, what do you think to France's chances?
I kind of have to agree with Philip. I probably would go with Spain as being my favorite. I agree that Germany's squad's a little bit imbalanced, perhaps, but I think that we've got Spain have some particularly exciting youngsters. I'm thinking about Paco Alcacer, and perhaps if Isco's given a little bit more of a chance at Real Madrid to boost his confidence. I think that there's if Diego Costa could be injury free, knock on wood, I think Spain probably are the favorites for me. But I wouldn't rule out the home support, and a lot of the players for France are continuing to develop. I'm looking particularly at Raphael Varane and Antoine Griezmann. They're not totally young, but they're still developing, and I think and Pogba as well. Their potential, were the three of them to enjoy strong seasons at club level, I think could really boost their confidence going forward. It's a really interesting time in European football. You have a sort of a changing of the guard for a lot of teams. The retirement, again, you rightly mentioned the likes of Lam, Xavi, Gerrard, Lampard retiring. Pirlo's still playing on apparently, but it's a really interesting time. There's no clear favorite for this tournament, so I think France have as good a chance as any. It's going to come down to their ability to put the ball in the back of the net, but if we look at Blaise Matuidi as being a goal-scoring midfielder, as he's demonstrated quite well tonight, and has done so as well in the league, I think that that added threat could give France a really good chance. I'd probably put them second favorite for now, but I wouldn't rule anything out. Who knows what can come of injuries to Spain and Germany as well.
Well, I agree.
Actually, we haven't mentioned Holland, but that's probably because they're not going to be there. I watched their game against Turkey last night. It was absolutely dreadful. It was like watching France under Dominic. It was just such a waste of talent. It's amazing.
Well, I think you make some interesting points, both of you. I agree that I think France will be there or thereabouts, but I do disagree on Germany for the one simple reason that they are an absolute tournament team that will always seem to turn it on when they need to, and they tend to reach semi-finals and finals almost without blinking. So I can't imagine them not being too far away. I think
you see people say that, but between '96 and 2014 they didn't win anything. So they always yeah, sure. You'll never see a German team getting knocked out before the quarterfinals, well, except in when they were really, really old. But it's not like they've got this great winning record like Spain have. I don't know. I just don't see. It's a bit the same problem as with Chelsea in the English Premiership. I just don't see the players. They just won the World Cup. Will they be hungry enough to win the European Championships? Mind you, I never would have thought France would have won Euro 2000 after '98. That's really not what I would have expected. But we had Anelka coming in and so on, and once the tournament started, the players were motivated. But I don't know. I just don't see the hunger in this German side.
I think it'll be interesting come tournament time.
Definitely.
Like we're saying, we're not certain about Spain, who start very poorly in qualifying. We're not certain about England. I don't think they'll be anywhere near really when it comes to the actual tournament. It might make if we make a semi-final, we'll be very, very happy. I think Holland are obviously not going to be there. Italy are another team that can either be absolutely amazing at a tournament or awful. I think France just have a bit more of an X factor than they have in the last couple of years, with the likes of Pogba, the form that Griezmann's in at the moment, especially as well. they've got a real chance, I think. But moving slightly off of that, might it give someone of a smaller, with the changes to a lot of these teams, might it give a smaller team with a bit of determination, much like Greece did back in 2004, a chance? I mean, we've seen the likes of Wales qualified brilliantly with a bit of togetherness and a world-class player. Portugal obviously have a Cristiano Ronaldo in the bank, which isn't too bad. Winner could really come out of anywhere, can't it, Philip?
No. The qualified. The qualified. I agree. It's great to see new sides, but I think it's not a coincidence. I think sides are losing some motivation, and it's just doing the whole thing all over again. I just think that some sides are going to be good and very, very hard to beat, but I really fear for the quality of this of the up and coming Euro 2016 tournaments, because those sides are extremely organized. I'm talking about sides like Iceland, Ukraine, Slovakia. They're extremely organized, very, very hard to score against. And I wouldn't particularly enjoy watching, on paper at least, Iceland versus the Ukraine, if both sides just want to not lose, because they'll obviously be playing with all their motivation. But if their motivation is just to stand back and try not to concede a goal against France or England or Spain, then we won't have much of a tournament, unfortunately. So I'm not even sure if having teams like Wales in the European Championship is that much of a good thing for the tournament itself. But then again, I mean, I was against this 2014 from the word go, so I'm probably massively biased about that. But there'll be great teams. It's great to see new countries, and I'm really happy for Iceland. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to end up in a wonderful, superb, historic tournament, even though it is in France.
Does that worry you as well, Eric? The amount of teams that are going through, the spread of not many teams necessarily feeling like they'll be competing for the title. Is that a worry that it might create quite a dull tournament?
I do worry about that. I think that one team we haven't mentioned, but just to go back to the potential favorites, is Belgium.
I just thought that myself.
they did win yesterday. They're 4 points ahead of Israel with a match at home to them to play in the next round of fixtures. So they're looking pretty good. If they get a draw in that match, they are qualified. So I think we shouldn't sort them out. Especially now that we have the likes of Benteke and De Bruyne moving to bigger clubs. To give them, more of a chance to polish their games. But again, I think that there are going to be a lot of defensively, tough teams. I mean, even a Wales. I mean, they've conceded 2 goals in 8 matches. I mean, let's defend with everything we've got and hope that Bale can produce a moment of magic. I mean,
exactly.
As incandescent as a player as Bale can be, that still doesn't make for particularly exciting aesthetic football. And which is somewhat of a contrast. I mean, I thought Euro 2012 was frankly fairly open in terms of attacking play, but
until Spain showed up, yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at that group with the Netherlands, Portugal, Denmark, and blanking on who the 4th team was. The group of death. I mean, those matches were hugely entertaining. Sorry?
I remember the group. Yeah, I'll have a quick search for you. Carry on.
Yeah, I mean, that was a hugely entertaining level of football. I mean, 2-2, 3-2 in the group stages. Where progression is has to be your mandate. So yeah, I do worry about it. That being said, let's get through the group stages. There's going to be some uneven matches. The World Cup suffers from the same thing, particularly with a lot of a lot of these countries coming, out of the likes of Central America and the Asian Federation, a lot of those teams are a little bit more solid defensively. So it's something that most international tournaments suffer through. And with the political map of Europe changing in the last 25 years, we're sort of getting necessary growing pains out of the way. If this tournament were 25 years ago, imagine what kind of team, the likes of a unified Yugoslavia could have. It'd be, frankly frightening with, all those players being from those respective countries being able to be on the same team. But that being said, I think it gives an opportunity for someone to spring a surprise. If we could have the likes of a Czech Republic, for example, who've done very well in qualifying, both going forward and in defense, 16-4, 10 against in terms of goals scored there. That could be hugely entertaining. Czech Republic, I'm not saying they're a favorite, but I think they're one to watch. They have a lot of interesting domestic players, and I think could perhaps buck this trend of overly defensive teams. But yeah, it's certainly a worry for the purists ahead of this tournament.
If we go in, I mean, I'm not sure if that's a debate we're supposed to go to, but I mean, the Euros is supposed to be a more difficult competition than the World Cup. It's basically all the tough teams, and then you add Brazil and Argentina, and which is no disrespect to Japan, South Korea, and all these great American and Asian.
Chile,
Sorry?
Chile.
Oh yeah.
Chile as well.
Well, and the US as well. I mean, they were pretty good in Brazil. Belgium did struggle to get rid of them. But having all these 24 teams, I'm not even sure why Platini did this. But it just does make the tournament a bit too easy. And when you've got sides like Iceland, Wales, probably Northern Ireland, probably Albania, qualifying for the first time in their history, I don't know. It just doesn't make the thing as good as it sounds. I mean, it's great. Again, no disrespect to these countries. I'm sure they work very, very hard to get their facilities straight, to get lots of things better, but it just feels less quality, just less quality, and it's even a more damning effect of how bad Holland have been playing, because if they can't enter a 24-team tournament, which are all European, it really means that is in a really, really poor state.
Well, it's a very interesting point of view. I think we can all work out that Platini worked out that more matches, more money. The UEFA meant the 24 teams, but I
always thought he regretted the fact that England didn't qualify for Austria, Switzerland, which are not exactly football countries, and that England not qualifying and none of the home nations or Ireland qualifying. I think Ireland did qualify, or I'm not so sure, It basically was probably the tournament recorded a loss or something. I read this somewhere. I'm not sure if it's true, and I'm not saying that this is the reason why Platini went from 16 to 24, but it just does not make any sense. It's just a completely senseless decision, because we're gonna have 6 groups of 4, and we're gonna have the top two plus the 4 best thirds. I mean, how stupid is that? I mean, the group stage is going to be a complete joke. I mean, it's great for the stadiums and for France, really, but I wasn't able to get a ticket in the first lot, so I'm just venting my fury, if you will. So yeah, I'm really not very happy about this decision, and I do hope it goes back to 16 at some point, because what is Blatter going to do next? Because Blatter has pretty much a tenure at FIFA, what is he going to do next? He's going to say, okay, well, Euros has more teams, and it went from playing for 2 weeks to playing to 3 weeks. Well, let's France was a big miss there. Let's put the World Cup with 64 teams or something ridiculous like that. It's just, I don't know, Just didn't think it was a good idea at the time. And as the tournament goes nearer and nearer, I just don't. I think it's an even more terrible decision than it was than I first thought.
Yeah, just to jump on that quickly, Phil.
Yeah.
The interesting thing there is that we talk about, a bigger pie. It means bigger money for everybody. But, how many people are going to come to Bordeaux for, say, Slovakia versus
Iceland?
Yeah, I mean, Iceland fans will probably be excited to come, but I mean, the country has what, 600,000 people, I think, or something like that.
I think it's 300,000. I think
300,000.
Iceland, yeah.
So, I really question if you have these stadiums in France that have been purpose built for this tournament. There are 50,000 people. Lyon's new stadium, Lille Stadium. It's not going to look very good on television if you've got two of these teams and the stadium's half full. Maybe locals will turn out if there's cheap tickets or something, but I can't imagine some of these countries filling their allotments.
That's the problem. There won't be any cheap tickets because the tickets aren't cheap and the demand is absolutely huge. But I think people are not really they're not really realizing that there are going to be some pretty average football being played on the pitch for 3 weeks, but that people will it'll be just lots of people applying for tickets just to go, not really to watch good football and to watch good teams, which is basic. And I don't think UEFA really care about this particular problem, which we, of course, as football fans and we all care about watching good games. But I think most people will just go there just for the fun and for the event, basically. Unfortunately.
It's a good point. I think give me some tickets for Slovakia or Iceland. I've watched League Two football. I'll be all right with it, I think.
Yeah, me too. I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It will attract people just because it's the Euros. So some people
because it's a major event and football will be all over the telly. It'll be all over the news for a month, for 3 weeks, a bit like the World Cup. So that's probably what Platini wishes. It's it'll be a bit like that.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting once the time comes. Just to very quickly go back about Wales's negative football, they did have more shots on target against Belgium in their 1-0 win, so I'll take that. It might be my quarter Welsh bias coming out there a little bit, but I'll take a little bit of glory, and I'm delighted they'll be heading there as well, possibly Northern Ireland and a few smaller teams. It'd be interesting to see. Very quickly, just before we finish, Philip, you wanted to talk very quickly about the current system for qualifiers and how it can really be bad for both clubs and countries alike.
Well, for clubs, you just have to get in touch with Mr. Aulas, who is Lyon chairman, and who just saw his best player injured for 6 months. It really is. I don't know if it's a jinx or anything. We had Wenger with Arsenal, who had the worst luck with injuries. I think it was in the early 2000s. So players getting injured on international duty really annoys the clubs a lot. I don't think the players are that motivated. I can't say I'm watching France versus Serbia. I can't see the players being extremely motivated to play a pre-season friendly. I'm really not a fan of the calendar that is set as it is now, which is to say the season starts in August. You've got one international break in September, one October, one in November, and then except for England, you've got a winter break. So you basically have clubs who are struggling to get in any kind of continuity, and it would be so much better to have a massive international break, like for 2 months, and then leave the clubs alone and let them manage their players for the rest of the season. I mean, I haven't got the idea all set up, but I really think it would be much better if the players were completely focused on the international scene for 2 months and then completely focused for clubs for the rest of the year. But I just can't see it happening, unfortunately. I know I'm not alone. I mean, I personally prefer club football to international football. I know I have some friends who prefer international football, but I'm sorry, but I'd much rather watch clubs than fans, because there's less football to watch. The football is less entertaining. Some of the games are either foregone conclusions or friendlies. You know, I really do believe it needs changing.
Eric, what do you think to that idea?
No, I agree. I mean, we've played 4 weeks of the Ligue 1 season, and we have to take a break. I mean, it's just getting rolling. We see, look at the potential of Rennes. Armand Payet gonna score a goal. Some of the plot lines that we see developing. PSG, with the introductions of Aurier, look, rejuvenated force. But then to just, come to a screeching halt, I think it's really problematic. Whether it's a month or 2 weeks, 2 weeks twice perhaps, some sort of more mediated breaks to be able to at least at the start of the season, at the very least, be able to play 7, 8, 9, 10 matches in a row. Mixing in European and cup competitions, of course, but to have those club teams, get some sort of continuity at the beginning of the season, because now you're taking a week and a half off, and now the players have to sort of recalibrate their minds, and just for injuries happen. That's not a concern for me, but the continuity in terms of getting attractively aesthetic football out there is it should be paramount for all involved. I mean, it showcases the players that are going to play for the international teams playing at a higher level, and it creates a higher level of football for the club teams as well. It's a win-win situation for me, and I don't see why FIFA and UEFA haven't moved to have a more unified schedule. Take two 2-week breaks and play 4 matches in each. Done.
Nice and simple.
Yeah, it's so complicated. It's really, I mean, it must be infuriating managing a club like Manchester United. This is probably why they make great decisions like spending 80 million euros. But
it makes
maybe
sense,
they spent so much they thought he wouldn't get called up.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we were saying about. I always feel that the international break seems to sneak up on you. So every so often it is always an international break. But you made an excellent point there, Eric. That I'm saying La Liga has had 2 weeks. La Liga's had 2 games.
Like Serie A. I'm not even sure why Deschamps called up Pogba. He just started playing competitive games. There's absolutely no use. I mean, we've got all season to make him play pointless friendlies. Why call him up? Why call him now against Portugal and Serbia?
Yeah, bring in a Jules Vosgy or a Gonalone.
Yeah. I mean, do try something else, and especially not someone who just started playing for his domestic league. It just doesn't make. I don't know.
Well, at least they've abolished the international break before the start of the season. Now, I think that was a very nice move.
Oh yes, having games on the 15th of August was genius.
Yeah, that was very poor. But I think we'll leave the ranting there, and that'll do for this evening. Thank you, Eric. And
until the next international break.
Yeah, there'll be more ranting and raving when it comes back round again. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you everyone for joining us at home. Have a nice evening.
Bye.